Welcome to Covenant Tribe Media Podcast, where we explore all things writers and filmmakers with an emphasis on faith-based and independent creators. The host is Ashia Goldson, a multi-published author, screenwriter, and filmmaker. Now, let's talk media.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Covenant Storyteller. I'm Ashia Goldson, your host, and today we have with us Ms. Darlene Middlebrooks. And I'm going to let her introduce herself to you, this fantastic author. She's going to talk to you now. Welcome, Darlene.
Well, let me say, I am so grateful to be here today. Hello, guys. I am Darlene Y. Middlebrooks Allen, and I am an author, poet, and the managing director of Poetic Inspirations Plus Company. So I'm really glad to be here, and I love doing things to help others, and that is what I do. So I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. It's definitely our pleasure. Darlene, our pleasure. All right.
Okay.
So if you could just tell us, Darlene, where are you from originally?
Okay, so let's say this. I'm originally a Southern girl. I was born in Mobile, Alabama, and I was raised here in Atlanta, Georgia. So I was raised in Georgia, and I'm from Mobile, Alabama. I am a Southern girl and basically in the South.
Okay, wonderful. Love it. Now, we're here today to talk about all your writing experiences, your journey, your business. When did you feel the call to write, Darlene?
Okay, so I started writing when I was in 11th grade, 16 years of age, and I really did not know that I was a writer. To be honest, it was more like a discovery of gifts and talents, and I wrote my first poem, and I don't even remember what inspired me to do so, but I did write that first poem at 16.
Okay.
And that's how I got started.
Okay. All right. So you wrote that first poem and it resonated with you and you wanted to write more. Am I right?
Yes. And it was a break in between. I wrote my first poem at 16, and then later on, it took a break. Life got going. And then by the time I was maybe in my 40s or 50s, I started writing again and realized that God had given me the gift to write poetry and children's books and poetry books.
Awesome. So there was a waiting period. There was a little hiatus in between, right? Because sometimes, sometimes we don't realize what we have inside us, what God has put inside us, right?
Exactly.
So tell us about that first book. What kind of book was that first one you wrote?
Okay, so it's a lot about that first book because I'm going to be honest with you. Let's start with, I don't even know where to begin with that first book. And the name of that first book is Natalie's World. Natalie Goes to Theater Camp. So that book was birthed, and I'm going to start here. It was birthed, honestly, from when I was actually no longer working. I was unemployed. And I said to myself before I really got educated on writing, I said to myself, I'm going to write something because I want to do something that will catapult me off of a job. But my original goal wasn't really informative. So I wrote the book basically to get something apart from a job and to say that will catapult me off of a 9-to-5. And then later on, Natalie's World began to resonate with me. And it became a revelation that the book really had a purpose. And I prayed about it. And I went from one process and one phase to another with the book. That's how I got started with the book. And later on, I did realize it was more to it than just being able to catapult me off of a job, which I realized the importance of writing and what it really meant.
Right. Okay. I get it. So you thought you were just running from maybe a job that you didn't want, right? But God had a bigger plan.
Exactly. I was on a job that I liked doing, but I wanted to do something apart from just working every day, the everyday, dumbness of just working every day. Yeah. And so I said, look, I really want to do some creativity here. I know it's something in me. I know it's creativity there. So what can we do? And I sat there. I did not know how to start. I did not know what to do, but something was in me that, God was just leading me to go to the library.
Right.
And I just ended up going to the library and starting there because back then it was in maybe 2020, 2015, 2014, something like that. So I ended up maybe even 2013. So I ended up in the library, and I'm still thankful for the library because I went from person to person and they were giving me information direction. Hey, talk to this person, talk to that person as to how to get started on your writing. So I don't know if we're moving into this, but although I started with the Natalie's World, the original goal was not to write a children's book, believe it or not.
Okay, I believe it.
Yes, ma'am. My original goal was to do a poetry book because that's what I was familiar with.
Right, that makes sense.
But I ended up, yes, I was actually familiar with the poetry because that's what I had, been writing since 16 years of age. But I ended up, as God would have it, the plan was different, as you said earlier. I ended up doing a children's book that I never knew I could write. And I actually started with, and I always say, sitting down, starting with prayer, starting with direction.
Yes.
The direction I went in was impromptu, and I ended up writing about actually myself, even though the book is fiction. The storyline does talk about some of the things, and as writers, we do pull out some of the experiences that we've had in our lives, what we've experienced, who we've talked to.
Absolutely.
We may not put the names in there, but I ended up writing this children's book. I really shocked myself because when I wrote it, it really was something that God showed me, that the plus that is in my business name, which is Poetic Inspirations Plus. God showed me this is the plus that is in you. So I moved on, and he blessed to not only he blessed with the editor, but I was able to move into getting it published through a publisher. It was just a smooth process in that sense, where God was connecting me.
Okay.
And I always say divine connections.
Yes.
He was connecting me from this person to that person.
Right.
And it wasn't that it was so hard because when the gifts are already there,
That's
it
right.
makes it easier. It makes
That's
it
right.
easier. It took me about, and I'm going to say 5 years, and I'm not saying that that's how long it takes to write a book. Everybody's different. Every situation is different. But it did take me about 5 years because I had a break in there. In 2014, I went to get my master's, so I had to put it on pause.
Right.
And when I picked it back up, amazingly enough, I was able to reconnect and get it published. So,
Excellent. So that was Natalie's World. What is Natalie's World about, mainly? Without giving the whole storyline away, give us a little bit.
Yes. So as I spoke earlier on the book, Natalie's World is basically, as it states, Natalie's World. The title goes into the book, which it talks about the importance of having a mindset. Now, Natalie is young. The character in the book is young. She still has a lot of growing to do. It's almost like it was kind of like a fictional me as a little girl when I was little. I'm going to be honest and transparent. I was self-centered. I was kind of like into me. I was into myself. Everything was about my world. So Natalie's World talks about how this young girl went through all types of changes in her life because she didn't understand the importance of intangible things. Like we get caught up in how our dress look and how our homes look and how much money we have. And we really don't understand the importance of love and relationships, a full relationship with God, and having peace of mind. And, because you can't even enjoy anything if you don't have a relationship. So Natalie's World talks about, it really is more of what you're not supposed to do. Natalie did a lot of things in the book that were more of self-centered and self-serving. So the book is more like, let's be a little more expanded in our mindset. Let's be a little more thoughtful of others. And her grandmother, she has a really good support team.
Right.
But after her father died, she did not accept the fact that the real reality of things hit her. And as a result, she had to really start growing up.
Yes.
And learning that everything is not centered around her.
Right.
So
as we all do.
Yes, we do. We do. We have a tendency to do that.
Right. One way or another. Life is a great teacher.
It is. Definitely. Definitely.
So that was your children's book, and that was successfully published, and you were well on your way. When did the poetry book come in again? How did poetry enter your life once again? Because now you're in the children's book world. When did the poetry arrive?
That's a good question. Okay, So the poetry, I'm going to say this. After Natalie's World is a book series. It's book one. So I paused in between book one and book two.
Okay.
And during that time, it was COVID. Things were happening.
Yes.
People were really struggling.
Right.
And so I just said, look, God just showed me, go ahead and do your poetry book, because I had already written 25 poems and I keep a collection of them. So I went ahead and put them. God said, go ahead and put it together, because people need encouragement. They need to know that there's hope. They need to know that even though they're going through whatever struggles, that they can get through them. You know, it may not happen quickly, but they can get through them through their faith and through their belief. So yes, the poetry book came as a result of COVID and the struggles that people were having with COVID and the loneliness and stuff. Yes.
Yes, that was an awful time. It was an awful time. There was so much going on. And definitely, just like you said, people definitely needed encouragement. So this was a perfect time for this release.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about your process. Like, what does your writing routine look like during that time when you were writing, either for the children's book or the poetry? Like, what does your routine look like?
Okay, so since we're talking about the poetry, let's go ahead and go with that poetry, because when I write, I guess I can say that I don't see it as a routine, but it can be considered a routine, because what I do is I really don't plan anything with my writing. I basically just, when things are happening with poetry, I just write. I write as more like a therapy. So the poetry book, the process with that, I just sat after God showed me to move ahead, just drop Natalie for now and move ahead with that book. I went in my bedroom. I chose that place because it was serene, and I sat down alone and I started putting the poems together in a fashion where the book would give you the purpose of the poem, the scriptural base of the poem, and also give you somewhere to write your thoughts and your reflections. I have a reflections page. So the book came about by me sitting down and writing or typing in my laptop the different poems, no order intended, just writing the poem, putting the poems all on script before it got to the actual book. And then once I put them in that format, I wanted to make sure the message got out, where during this process, we're going to go ahead and put it where people can look at it as a devotional and see it, where when you open it up, you'll see the phrase, the meaning of the poem, because we can read poetry, right, and really not understand the meaning of it and why it's there, because you've had that experience. No one else has had that experience.
That's true.
So the process, going through the process, helped me realize, let me put something down here that people can relate, hopefully can relate to. That's basically what we did.
And you said you have that. So there's space actually for reflection. So really, it's not just a poetry book. It's almost like a poetry devotional.
Exactly.
In a sense.
Exactly.
Okay. I love
that. Was my whole goal. Yes, it is.
That.
It is a devotional. I did do a self-publishing. So that was my first time, since we're talking about the process.
Right.
That was the first time I ever did a self-publishing. And I was so pleased with that, because I did realize it opened up even more for me, because I realized that self-publishing, it gave me more power back to do what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it, whether they being under the auspices, of someone else's dictation. So, and it's nothing wrong with either way. I mean, you can do self or you can do traditional. So to say that, for me, it was a new experience, so to speak. And I think I would rather do self-publishing. And I never thought I'd say that, because I shied away from self-publishing some years back, because we didn't have the technology we have now.
That's so true. Yes. A lot of resources today that we didn't have then.
Exactly.
But what it sounds like you're saying is that you love the autonomy.
Yes.
The freedom, that creativity. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is. Yes, and it allows me. Yes, it is. And I'm grateful for it, because it allowed me to express more of who I am and what we are as a business, and integrate all of that.
And that's kind of what I was going to ask you next. What's the story behind the title of your new book? How did that come to you? How does that all tie into your overall brand? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So the title of the book is Inspiring Your Metamorphosis. This title, I'm going to be honest, I'm not even sure if it's something that was a light bulb or if it's something that I sat down and wrote several titles and came up with this. I'm not sure about that part. I am sure about this. Metamorphosis, and I'm just going to share a little bit, means a deep and complete change in form, shape, and character. And it talks of major personal or life changes. It talk about the butterfly. So my whole goal in writing this, and I came up with Inspiring Your Metamorphosis, is because I would like to inspire others to become more and to do more, and to, since butterflies have to go through what you call that metamorphosis process, they cannot, and I know most people may or may not know that butterflies, they are originally caterpillars. They have to squeeze through a cocoon. And if anything comes and interrupts that process, they won't be able to fly as a full developed butterfly. They won't be able to go at their peak. They won't be able to fly at their peak. So I said all that to coincide with and to integrate the Inspiring Your Metamorphosis, meaning we as human beings, we go through struggles. We go through our cocoon that we have to squeeze our way through, because when I say squeeze, that means no one is there sometimes. Sometimes you not to say that we don't need help, but we sometimes have to go through alone, and it may feel alone, but we're having to go through that process so that we can develop into the person that we need to be, just like that butterfly develops into a beautiful, colorful butterfly. So we have to go through the struggles of life. We have to squeeze through things. We have to press our way through things. And no one, sometimes people really don't understand what you're going through.
True.
So when they don't understand that Inspiring Your Metamorphosis, it creates that space for others, for me to be able to put out there, hey, I want to inspire you, knowing that you can get through this, even though others may not understand what you're going through. You can get through it alone, even if you have to do it alone, and lean on your faith. So that's basically, I hope that answers.
That's good. Yes, definitely. I love that. Can you tell us, was there a particular poem in this book, or if you remember, that was the hardest to write? And if so, why? Which poem may have been the hardest?
That's a good question. I have to think about that. Let me think, because the poems were based, and I'll say this, let me just see which one I can think about that did give me the biggest challenge.
Okay. And I wasn't. Maybe
that one was the one that's called, and I do think I have one. I'm going to say Rainfall. Rainfall is the name of one of the poems. It talks about the giving and trusting God with finances. So the hardest poem that I think that was hardest for me to write was the Rainfall. And it was the process of the Old English King James version of the poem. I integrated some of that wording. And I had to think about it, like, what can I do here? It's like, okay, we don't want people to misunderstand what I'm trying to convey. So I think that was kind of like the hardest ones for me to write. And it wasn't even a long one. It's not as long as some of the other ones, but I think that was
because of the language you're saying.
Because of the language.
That's understandable. Yeah. Which poem do you feel most vulnerable sharing with the readers, and what makes it so personal?
That's a good question. It's a poem called Red Alert Commune that I had in the book. And that poem to me was the most, because I'm not the type person that likes to feel vulnerable, but that poem, that you're making me think about the fact that that poem, Red Alert Commune, was actually a personal poem for me, because it dealt with my past relations, and it was still a significant part in my life. And I had to set boundaries that made things difficult and complicated. So that poem was the most personal for me. Yes.
Okay. All right. Did you have a particular order or structure, in terms of the way you place the poems in the collection? or no?
Okay. Yes, I did. I didn't have a particular order because I had written the 25 down in my notes, and I just went ahead and wrote the 25 in that order. But the structure of it, yes, I did have a particular structure, and that was based on, I had mentioned some of it earlier with the structure deciding, I based it on having the synopsis there. I wanted everything scriptural based. I wanted it not so super spiritual that people couldn't understand, but I had it where the poem starts off with the basis, the phrase that gives you an explanation for the poem, and then it moves on to the scripture, and then it moves on to the poem. So those three things were there in order for people to understand what this is all about. Hey, I'm going to read this, and this is what it's about. So I did have a structural basis, but no order.
No particular order. Okay, got it. All right, awesome. And you already told us you self-published, and that really worked out for you. What would you say was the biggest surprise or challenge you faced just throughout the entire process, just the entire publishing process or the writing process, either or?
Okay. The biggest challenge for me, let me say, I'll just go ahead and say it. The biggest challenge for me was the technology.
Technology. Got it.
It seems like the older I get, the less technical savvy I get. And I'm thinking in terms of, oh, wow, this is a process to say. So the process has always been challenging for me. So the process of being technically inclined, and the process of navigating through that technology. So I would say that.
I can understand that because technology is going so quickly.
Yes, it is.
Going and growing. So what's here today is gone tomorrow, and we're on to the next.
Yes, it is.
So I totally get it.
You have to keep up with it.
You got to keep up. Yeah, it's right. Okay. We are coming to the end of our talk. Unfortunately, we could just go on and on. But what advice would you give to anyone who may be listening right now? It might be an aspiring faith-based poet. It might be just someone who wants to write a book, someone who wants to write a children's book. Regardless, what advice would you give to our listener today who wants to get their first book published?
Okay. I would say if you've never written before and you desire to write, first of all, if the desire is there, I don't think it's there for naught. I think the desire is there because God placed it there. So I would say go and do your research. Make sure you research the process, find out how you want to present it. Don't overthink it. Don't overanalyze it. I actually submitted something to a company that would have wanted me to go with them for writing. Sometimes you can go and submit your work to get a free analysis of your work. I would even suggest that. And have fun. Have fun with it. Relax with it. Don't allow it to be a burden, but allow it to be a journey. And I would say just enjoy it and let it be a discovery and journey of yourself and what you can do as a person. Okay. So that's what I would give. That's the advice I would give.
That's good stuff. Good stuff. Definitely. Okay. Darlene. So I have another question for you before we come to our end. What's next for you creatively? Is there another project already brewing in your heart? What can we expect from you?
That's a good question as well. Okay, so what's next for me? I'm trying to build my brand because Poetic Inspirations Plus and Inspiring Your Metamorphosis, a poetry book, and Natalie's World fall under Poetic Inspirations Plus company. So I guess my next goals will be to build that brand of my business, let people know who I am, and finish book 2 because book 2 has been on hold for a while. Okay. And I have had somewhat of writer's block, and maybe not so much writer's block as it is the motivation. So I would say my next creative activity will be to do that book 2 and to build my brand.
All right.
Yes.
We look forward to both, Darlene. We look forward to both and hearing about it.
Okay.
So how can our listeners who want to keep up with you and follow your journey and see when book 2 comes out and all of these wonderful things, keep up with your brand, how can they do that? Where can they find you?
Okay, so I am on several social media. So let's go with the webpage. I can be reached at www.poeticinspirationsplus.net. That way you can find out more about us. And then I'm also the books are on Amazon.com. Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and YouTube. So I have a YouTube handle at Darlene Y. Middlebrooks -ALLE 6003. So that's where I can be reached at.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So everybody's got that, so they can definitely get in touch with you, check you out, check out what you have going on, and just follow your journey as you continue to publish and continue to flourish. So, Darlene, I thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sure our listeners are excited. And we appreciate you, and definitely keep in touch with us so that we can continue to root for you. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
Oh, the
Thank
pleasure
you.
was all mine. Enjoy your day.
Well, God bless you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And
Bye-bye.
you have been listening to The Covenant Storyteller. I'm Aisha Goldson.
Thank you for listening. Join your host, Aisha Goldson, next time on the Covenant Tribe Media Podcast.